us what you want to hear. DeepEllumOnAir.com. Check 1, 2. DeepEllumOnAir.
Right, you're on mute.
DeepEllumOnAir.
It's time to really get our party on now.
It's the Rich Hancock Show. Experience, factor, extravaganza, program on DeepEllumOnAir.
Emanating live once again from the friendly confines of the Deep Ellum Community Center, this is the Rich Hancock Show, program, factor, rapport, experience, maybe even extravaganza for another Wednesday. It is the 26th day of March in the year of our Lord, 2014. Now I'm just screwing with that, Jedi. I mean, 2014, 2014, 20, and 14.
I think it all works.
Just kind of monkeying with it. I really loved back in the 01, 02, 03. Mike Reiner of The Ticket just decided to start calling it the aughts, as it was in the turn of the last century. 19-aught, you'd hear the old coal miner would talk about back in 1902 we did this and that. So the aughts made sense. That odd period between 09 and 13, you had, 10, 11, 12. What did you call them? I'm glad we can just now call them the teens. But, 2014, 2014, does it really matter? We're here. This is the Rich Hancock program on DeepEllumOnAir.com. You can give us a call with whatever is on your mind at 214-747-DEEP. That's 214-747-3337. The lovely and talented Jedi Jansen will get you on the line, and we will chat about the news of the day. Got an interesting program for you today. Lots of guests dropping by, Jedi, as you know.
Allegedly.
We're going to be greeted by Craig Woolheater, which is a great name, by the way.
And he is here.
He
is confirmed.
I didn't even know that was him, but
we're looking right at him.
Woolheater is a kick-ass name. Craig, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. Co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. We're going to talk about that and all things, well, I guess starting with all things Bigfoot and get into other stuff beyond that. Going to be joined in a little bit by comedian Taylor E. Gibbons. Taylor Gibbons is going to be with us to bring on the funny. And my dear friend, the lyrically beautiful Rosa Nichols is going to be with us. Rosa is an actress, a producer. She and I were also journalists at Market News First back in the day, 2007 and 2008.
Hot 7 and Hot 8.
Hot 7, that's right. Thank you for the correction, Craig Woolheater. It was Hot 7, not 07. If you are the old coal miner, but. Why don't we just start right off by welcoming our first guest this afternoon, Craig Woolheater, the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. Good afternoon, Craig. How are you, sir?
Doing fine, Rich. How are you?
Very well. It's a pleasure to meet you. And you are also the host of a program right here on DeepEllumOnAir.com. Tell us about your show.
Well, we host a show called The CryptoCast. It is the official podcast of Cryptomundo, which is a venture that I started back in 2005, which just encompasses all of the strange creatures out there, from Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Yeti, Abominable Snowman, Jersey Devil, everything that's out there that's strange. We like to talk about. I talk about it on the website, and so we brought it to the airwaves with the CryptoCast.
Now, is it restricted to... I guess would we call them not fictional? We would call them characters of some
mystical
characters
people
that
call them all kinds of things.
Folks have been trying to prove for a very, very long time. I know the legendary film footage of Bigfoot from a clearing, I believe it was in California, wasn't it?
Bluff Creek, California,
Bluff Creek.
1967.
1967 has been...
Ot 67.
Oh, all right. We can knock that off now.
Hey, I use Ot all the time. Going back to the Beverly Hillbillies, if you'll remember, Jethro was showing off, and one of his things was Ot plus Ot equals not. So I'm a big fan of the Ots, even the Knots.
We are men of a certain age, so we remember the Beverly Hillbillies.
Used to be primetime entertainment. People could hardly believe that now, that seeing it in syndication and reruns, but back in the day, it was primetime entertainment.
Not only primetime, it was huge.
I think it was the number one show when it was on.
Oh, heck yeah. And Jethro was a riot, and Ellie Mae was as hot as a $2 pistol, and Granny was funny, and you had Jed, the anchor of the whole thing, who was, went on to be, Buddy Ebsen starred in, what was his
Barnaby Jones.
Barnaby Jones.
Hard to believe he goes from Jed Clampett to Barnaby Jones.
In fact, he made a cameo appearance in the Beverly Hillbillies movie with Jim Varney as Jed,
right,
as Barnaby Jones. It was pretty cool.
Speaking of Barnaby Jones, in my opinion, you knew who the bad guy was going to be immediately in the episode. He was the first guy that called Barnaby Pops would be the bad guy in that episode, guaranteed.
Well, it was real. It really kind of was a detective work for dummies on network TV back. They couldn't hold it up to the high intellectual detective standards of Mannix, for instance.
Mannix was great.
Was it Mike Conrad, right?
Yep. And I remember he drove, I believe, a Dodge Challenger. The detectives back in the day had cool cars.
Oh yeah.
You remember Rockford Files? Jim Rockford had a Firebird or a Trans Am.
Firebird.
Yeah. So they had cool cars. But I remember one episode where Mannix, the brakes had gone out on his car, and he was having to grind it to a halt up against a canyon wall there, probably a Mulholland Falls or somewhere, but, somebody cut his brake line, so he had to grind it to a halt, so he didn't go plunging off the cliff.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I've been out in those hills in L.A., and it's funny, there's always somebody filming one of those dramatic chases, because there are hairpin turns all over the place, and yeah, those were the days. The Challenger, and the Challenger, by the way, has made a big comeback. It's a very hot car.
The Halcyon days, yes. Those were the days. Very
much so. Now we're talking about again. Craig Woolheater is with us. He is
we were talking about the 1970s detective shows.
I will go off on a tangent faster than anybody in radio, Craig. Don't worry. Let's bring it back to we started with the Bigfoot film from the 60s.
Right.
That has since been roundly debunked. Was that safe to say?
No, not safely.
No?
There are skeptics that still debunk it, but nobody has ever shown that they had the suit. There's been people that claimed, but there's been like 5 different guys that claimed that they were in the suit. The suit wasn't that big for all 5 of them to fit in it.
My wife was watching a special on, I can't recall, one of these Discovery-type networks. Right. Now there seems to be a half a dozen of them, by the way.
At least.
Hey, by the way, Craig's going to appear on one of them coming up, yeah?
Yeah, I did. I filmed an episode of Finding Bigfoot. I had a sighting of Bigfoot myself in 1994 in Louisiana, and so in January I went out there with the guys and filmed a recreation and was interviewed to air this fall on Animal Planet, Finding Bigfoot. So,
not to burst your bubble, but I'm pretty sure that was our mutual friend Eric Castile, who a lot of people in radio know as Strip Club DJ. Do you remember Strip Club? He was on the Dick Hunter show. He's a good friend of ours.
It was Big Dick Hunter.
And it is Big Dick Hunter.
Okay.
And he listens to this show, by the way. He's in Louisiana listening to this program. So Kulog, good to talk to you, buddy. We're just joking, calling you Bigfoot.
If he was north of Bunkie, the town of Bunkie, about 30 minutes south of Alexandria on Highway 71 at 11:30 on May 30th, 1994, in a full-length fur coat, and maybe it was him.
Oh, he doesn't even need the fur coat. I've seen him without a shirt on. It's unbelievable.
Oh my God!
But notwithstanding that, I kid my friend, and I'm goofing around with you a little bit, Craig. But tell me, with sincerity, I ask, when one decides to devote a lot of energy and resources to this type of research, what kind of a result in terms of verification or the kind of proof that would make even the most ardent naysayer say, "Oh well, you did it.
Well,
you figured it out. You cracked the code."
Undoubtedly, it's going to take a body, a body. Maybe not, probably not even a piece of a body, but a body there. DNA evidence isn't going to prove it because, there's been a couple of different DNA studies, but unless you actually have a DNA known sample to compare an unknown DNA sample to, all it is an unknown DNA sample.
But wouldn't it bear certain characteristics as a DNA sample? And I'm thinking about, I was actually watching this on Cosmos with Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson the other night. The fact is, trees have a DNA stand. Humans have a DNA stand. A rutabaga has a DNA strand. Wouldn't you be able to extrapolate certain things from a given strand of DNA that said, this isn't primate, this isn't, Homo sapien, this might be something in between?
Sure, you could come up with, it's not anything that's in GenBank that's registered as a known DNA sample, but once again, that doesn't prove what it is, it proves what it isn't.
Okay, sure. Process of elimination. Okay,
correct.
So you're very accurate in essentially you need the habeas corpus. You need the actual body of the crime or the body of evidence to prove it one way or the other. How long have you been in search of Bigfoot?
Well, I was interested in the subject as a child. Here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, back in the late 60s, there was a creature out at Lake Worth, northwest of downtown Fort Worth, called the Lake Worth Monster, that was seen by hundreds of people that summer of 1969. As we were preparing to land on the moon, there were hundreds of people out there. Mm-hmm. It was a front page story on the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, July 10th and July 11th, and my grandparents, subscribers of the paper and living in Fort Worth, saved those copies for me because they knew I had a scrapbook of weird stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was fascinated with that, and a year later I read a book that I traded with a kid at school. I don't even remember what I traded, but I remember the book. It was called Strange Creatures from Time and Space, and the author actually shares a birthday with me. He passed away a couple of years ago, but his name is John Keel. He was the man who wrote the Mothman Prophecies.
Oh, wow, really?
And he wrote this book in 1970 called Strange Creatures from Time and Space, and there was a chapter on the Mothman in there, but there was chapters on all kinds of strange creatures all over the world, and I was fascinated with that. A couple of years later, went to the movies and saw a film that was shot not far from here called The Legend of Boggy Creek. It was about a creature that was seen in a town called Falk, Arkansas, about 15 miles south of Texarkana, so just across the border. And so I was fascinated as a young teenager, and then into Boy Scouts with the outdoors and what might be out there. But growing up, that stuff kind of faded away until May 30th, 1994, I was driving back to Dallas from New Orleans. I lived down here in Deep Ellum at the time. Mm-hmm. I lived down here from 92 to 99, and had a group of friends that went. There was 12 of us total in 5 cars, and that was pre-Google Maps and GPS, anything like that. So you just had a road atlas or a road map. You plotted out your course. So we plotted out our course, and when we left 5 o'clock Friday morning of Memorial Day weekend, when we drove through Louisiana, it was light. So we had no idea, what was in store for my return visit, which I was the last one to leave Monday night, May 30th, Memorial Day. Left New Orleans about 9 o'clock. And as we cut up through, near Baton Rouge, heading up to through Alexandria to get to Shreveport, to come home, it was a 2-lane road, it was 11:30 at night, no cars, no traffic, just a road with us, myself, my girlfriend, and a friend that lived down here in Deep Ellum with me, same neighborhood. She had to be at work the next morning, so she was sleeping in the back seat, but we saw a figure, as we're driving on the highway with nobody around. My girlfriend and I, in the headlights of my car off to the right of the road, see a figure off to the right. It's about 30 feet to the tree line, and it's about halfway down. And as we get closer and closer, we see more and more detail. It turns out, it looks like it's it's approximately 7 foot tall. It's covered with hair. It looks to be gray in the headlights, and it's moving. Its back is to us. It's walking. And, we saw it, probably no more than 7 or 8 seconds as we're driving. But as soon as we passed it, we both turned to each other and said, "Did you just see what I just saw?" simultaneously, and agreed that we did. And I said, "What do you think you saw?" And she said, "I think I saw Bigfoot." And I said, "Well, we got to stop." And she's like, "Hell no." So we didn't stop, and I regret it to this day. Don't know what I would have done. I did have a camera, but, I just wanted a better look. So we drove to a small church. It was the first sign of civilization, and parked in the parking lot and talked about it for about 10 minutes. And then finished the drive home.
Now, what would you say, having, Craig Woolheater is the co-founder of the
Texas Bigfoot Research Center.
Texas Bigfoot, and if you want to find out more about the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, where could folks go?
Right now, I just resurrected the organization just recently, so our presence right now is just on Facebook. I do have a website called cryptomundo.com that has been around since 2005. It is the #1 resource on the internet for anything about cryptozoology, which is the study of hidden or unknown animals.
Okay.
And we cover it all there, from Bigfoot to the abominable snowman, Loch Ness Monster, chupacabras, everything. I mean, it's just a clearinghouse for all the news on all the strange creatures from around the world.
What would you say is the biggest obstacle to, for lack of a better word, legitimizing this type of research for folks like yourself with the general public who might, we talked about this last week. You've got a major motion picture coming out of Hollywood this week about a 900-year-old guy who built an ark and put every animal in the world on it, and that's acceptable lore or storytelling. But the notion of I guess we could say something akin to missing link between primate and Homo sapien might well be out there.
Were there 2 Bigfoots on the ark? Who knows?
Good question. I don't think they're biblically referenced.
No. Well, there is reference in the Bible. I believe in Job verse 30. There's reference to hair-covered beings that are human-like.
But see, then again, there's storytelling from the guy who's supposed to have lived in a fish for 3 days. Stop it.
That does sound pretty fishy.
Oh, dude. You should have your radio credentials taken away from you for that joke. Jedi, get his credentials, please. I'm kidding. Craig Woolheater is here with us. And I was thinking about this from the context that, it's funny that we kind of feathered into religion there, because you've got the opponents to research such as yours into unexplainable phenomenon. Species that may or may not be out there, like Loch Ness or Yeti or Bigfoot or whatever, but the proof is not readily available to conclude the discussion. So your research is valid until one way or another, right?
Bringing religion into it, I'm asked all the time, do I believe in Bigfoot? Do I believe in the Loch Ness Monster? And, speaking of religion, belief is taking things on faith.
Absolutely.
I don't say that I believe in Bigfoot. I don't believe in Loch Ness Monster. I look at the facts that are there that point towards this creature's existence, from eyewitness testimony to footprint tracks in the ground, my own experience, and I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people who claim that they've seen one of these animals, a Bigfoot, since I formed the organization back in 1999. And, even if I throw out every other person's experience, I have my own experience, that I can't explain away. I've talked to people that have no motivation that I can see, no benefit to them at all for telling me their story. I've talked to men that have broke down crying on the phone because they've never been able to tell anybody this story, even their spouse, because fear of ridicule. And that's that's one thing that I think goes against this. There's very few scientific people, actual scientists, degreed scientists, that will look into it because of the ridicule involved. There are a few that have fought through it, like Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who currently, he teaches at Idaho State University, but he spends a lot of time out there in the field, has funded studies to try and prove the existence of this animal. I think that a lot of that goes against the legitimacy of it, because people may say, oh, my friend said Bigfoot, but we laugh and make fun of him and think he's crazy. There's only a couple instances, if somebody says they've seen one of these things, either they're lying, they're hoaxing, they're being hoaxed, possibly they were under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
Sure. No. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or they're mistaking known wildlife or humans. Or the other possibility is that they say they saw what they say they saw. Yeah. And I feel that at least a portion of those people that I've talked to that I found credible fall into that last category, including myself.
Well, part of the problem for those who do this type of research in earnest is the fact that we know well that there are hoaxers. There are people out there who make a regular practice of strapping on the Bigfoot shoes and running out in the woods so they can say, "Oh yeah, we saw a Bigfoot, and look, see that I made those tracks, and obviously it's all fake."
There are people that claim that, but the thing that I look at is the volume of evidence. There have been sightings in every state in the Union. Native American folklore going back hundreds of years. Every continent except Antarctica, has their own version of Bigfoot ingrained in their culture. And to me, the preponderance of the evidence, eyewitness testimony, for me, it's would be harder to believe that there's whoever it may be out there, it'd have to be organized out there creating fake evidence, than the fact that the animal is there. I mean, it'd be harder to believe that it's every instance, every eyewitness, incident, every piece of evidence was hoaxed. That's far harder for me to believe than the animals there.
And I completely agree with you on that. However, it is a reality in our culture that there are people so devoted to the debunking of evolution that they really believe there are those out there who go around planting fossils.
Right.
That these are Satanists or atheists or something who are intentionally planting fossil evidence. They have to. It's part of that whole. The amount of devotion, extreme devotion you have to a set of beliefs is almost akin to the extremes, the mental extremes you'll go to justify your position.
Sure. Some people go to any means to prove what, they want. That. Now
that said, as a legitimate researcher into the whole the question of whether there is a Bigfoot or whatever, however that may have manifested itself, as the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, you must be very frustrated by the people whom you know to be less than intellectually honest in their pursuit, those who have fabricated evidence, those types of things, which we see all the time.
True.
It's almost like the whole premise is debunked by the one guy putting on the snowshoes and running out in the woods.
Sure that's irritating, but it does not change what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It does not change when someone reports a sighting to me and I go investigate it, or I find tracks in the ground in a place where no hoaxer would plant them. I mean that's happened. It doesn't change the fact in what I'm doing. I mean, it's a byproduct of it, and I have to deal with it because, invariably when a story hits the news, everybody and their brother that I know then sends me that story. Did you see this? Did you see that? And I'm like, yeah, a week ago. But, it's just something you got to deal with. I fully believe, like I said, I saw something I cannot explain in 1994. I can't tell you unequivocally that it was, an indigenous ape in North America, but I can tell you a whole hell of a lot what it wasn't. I did one radio show, a morning zoo show, and they joked around that, maybe, that Shaquille O'Neal was from, that area, LSU, Baton Rouge.
Oh, and there's
and
nothing
perhaps it was
racist about
him
that.
in the middle of the night, wearing a full-length fur coat out on the side of the road, and I immediately hung up. But,
I don't blame you. And Craig Woolheater is here with us. He is the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, and he is also the host of DeepEllumOnAir's very own CryptoCast. When can we hear CryptoCast, Craig?
Well, we one of our cast members, myself, Monica Rollins, and Howard Goldthwait, he's one of the cast members of Assorted Nuts. That's on one Sunday night a month, and so we typically follow that show. The next show is April 13th, from 8:30 to 9:30 here, and we just like to have fun with it. We're
Sure.
What we're going to do on the next show, a segment we're going to do anyway, is each of us is going to pick out a couple of Bigfoot videos that have been posted on YouTube, and we're going to do our own Mystery Science Theater 3000 twist on those videos.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Well, we're going to take a quick break. This is the Rich Hancock Show program Factor Rapport Experience for Wednesday, March the 26th. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, Taylor Gibbons, comedian, is going to be with us, along with actress and producer Rosa Nichols. Stick around, more to come after these tunes. 100% local music and shows on DeepEllumOnAir.com. Stick around.
I've been searching for something, but I can't see anything at all. I'm higher than I've ever been, and I don't think that I'll fall down. Higher than you. You get lost in your pockets, your eyes falling out of the sockets in your head. You're trying the straight and the narrow. Which direction will you follow now? Tell the sky from the sea. I can't tell if you're talking to me, 'cause I can't surrender my sickness. My sickness. Well, I can't see the forest from the trees, and I can't tell the sky from the sea. I can't tell if you're talking to me, 'cause I can't surrender my sickness.
The Rich Hancock Show on DeepEllumOnAir.com. Who was that Jedi, by the way, that we were just listening to? 100% local music and shows here on DeepEllumOnAir.com, and that was kind of cool. Who was that?
That was the Zachary Scott Pole Band.
The Zachary Scott Pole Band?
Yeah.
Like polka band or pole dancer band? Or
P-O-H-L, that's his last name. Zachary Scott
okay.
Pole.
Well, see, now that makes sense. Okay, I was struggling with making sense there. The Rich Hancock Show Program Factor Rapport Experience for a Wednesday, March the 26th. And thanks once again to Craig Woolheater for sitting in. He's the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, and the host of CryptoCast on DeepEllumOnAir.com. And now we are joined in studio by my beautiful, as I put on Facebook, my lyrically beautiful friend, former reporter with Market News First, along with myself back in 2007 and 8, Rosa Nichols. Rosa, my darling, it's wonderful to see you.
Oh, well, it's great to be here. It's good to see you, too. It's been a while, 2007.
I know it. And you have gone on. You're performing in films, on television. You've got a new series coming up. You've got movies out. Tell me, first of all, you got a film that's out now, right?
I do. It's called Damaged Joy, shot in Florida, and it's based on a true story. The story came to me from a friend of mine. We had lunch, and I hadn't seen her for a while, and she said, "Oh, I've got to tell you what's been going on with me." Mm-hmm. So, of course, she tells me this story, and basically, she tells me that her dog has died, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." She goes, "Well, no, that's not the end of it." And then she tells me how the dog passed away and all this other stuff, and it's very controversy, this story, so I don't want to give too much away, but it's a
controversial dog death story?
Yes.
Foul play afoot here?
It could be considered that, and it's just that, you would never think of all the things that has happened to her, and the way she went about in making the choice on how to help her dog was very sick. Okay. And so she couldn't stand for this dog to go through any more suffering, so she decides on her own to put the dog to sleep on her own, her way and stuff. But it goes awry, and all these bad things start to happen. So basically, karma catches up to her, and I don't want to give anything away because it is just shocking.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure
whenever I tell people about it, they're like, "What? She couldn't do this, and she couldn't do this," because there's all these other choices that she could have made rather than the choice that she made.
Now, what's the film called?
It's called Damaged Joy.
Damaged Joy.
And it's also going to be at the Bare Bones Festival. It's an official selection. It was nominated for Best Comedy Short. My lead actress, April Dawn Hartman, she was also nominated for Best Actress. And also the youth that's in there, Madison Gilbert. Mm-hmm. She did a phenomenal job, and she's also nominated for Best Youth. So very exciting.
Yeah. Now, where's the Bare Bones Film Fest?
It is in Muskogee, Oklahoma. So, go be an Okie in Muskogee.
I always wanted a reason to go there, just so I could say I've been to Muskogee, Oklahoma. And I'm glad to hear it's a comedy, Rosa.
Oh,
because
yes, it is. It's a dark comedy. It's very dark, but, with little sprinklings of laughter. But
luckily for a dark comedy, our comedian in studio today is wearing shades. Taylor E. Gibbons is here. Taylor, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I imagine the comedy wheels are spinning as you're hearing this little tale of a
excruciatingly fast, yeah.
A merciful termination of a pet's life gone awry.
Well, she should have known. It takes more than that to take down a dog. You need like silver bullets to pierce the leather hide.
Wait a minute, that's a whole nother movie.
Well, it was suggested, for her to do that. And, of course, she didn't do that, so slit in the throat, silver bullets, all that stuff.
Yeah. Dog swims out of the middle of the river, looks back at you, its eyes are just glowing.
And that's when the real horror began. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for being with us. Taylor E. Gibbons is a stand-up comedian. He comes to us by way of, is it from our friends across the street?
Yeah, I know them.
Dallas Comedy House?
Yeah, I don't live there. I live in
I
a
didn't
house
say I
in,
didn't say
in
you
our-
lived there, dude. I meant I wondered if you worked there occasionally.
Yeah, I do the open mic over there quite often.
Okay, and well, we've got some comedy of Taylor Gibbons that might be getting to a little bit later on as we go through the program. You never ask a comedian who sits down with you to tell a joke. So we're not
come
gonna,
on.
No, Rosa.
I'm kidding.
That's the last thing you know. It's like seeing Fred Astaire and saying, "Dance something for me." So we're going to try and play some of Taylor's stand-up over the course of the program. But I just kind of wanted to invite him in to let folks get to hear a new comic here in town and find out along with me about what it is you're doing. Now, since you and I were journalists with Market News First, you've been acting. I followed you as friends, not only real friends but friends on Facebook over the last years, and I just love seeing all the stuff you're doing. Tell me a little bit about not only where you are performing, but you've also begun producing your own work. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, Damage Joy was my very first own that I wrote, directed, produced.
Wow! Oh, wait a minute!
Yes.
I didn't even get this. You produced it, you wrote it, and you directed it.
Yes, and I have a tiny part in it, tiny. So it's all the way around. So that was my baby right there, the very first one. I have also co-produced or helped produced Amazing Grace, which is getting.
I remember that. I remember seeing it on Facebook. Yeah.
Yes, my friend Larry Jack Dotson, his wife had wrote the original story of it, and he produced it and he directed it, and he also has a tiny part in it. But we both worked together on it, and it's doing great. His is also being shown at Bare Bones Festival, and there's lots of nominations for his as well, and he's also on a panel. And I'm not sure. Larry Jack has been in quite a few big movies as well. What was it, Bernie?
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yes.
with Jack Black and
Jack Black and
Matthew McConaughey
and Shirley.
Shirley MacLaine and a whole bunch of our local friends.
Exactly.
My dear friends Grant James and Julie Erickson were a couple in Bernie. So see a lot of familiar Dallas faces in Bernie.
Exactly.
But now tell me about the Bare Bones Film Festival in Muskogee, Oklahoma. When is the festival?
The festival is getting ready to start up this coming week.
So it's first week of April?
Also, first week at first. It's the first 2 weeks. The first week is the music part, the music festival. Second week is all the films, and there's a lot of great Texas showing that's going to be up there at the Bare Bones this year. My editor, he also edited mine and Larry Jack's Amazing Grace. Also, he has a short that's up there that he directed and edited, and then there's a feature film that's also going to be up there. And I can't remember the name of that. I think it's Suburbanites.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's a new feature, and that's also going to be there at Bare Bones as well. So it's going to be a great festival. A lot of people from Dallas. So hopefully we're going to take over Oklahoma.
It's happened before. Yes. It'll happen again. Taylor E. Gibbons, our comedian in residence today, is well. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you a local guy, or did you come to Dallas to ply your craft? Tell us about Taylor E. Gibbons.
I am merely a local guy. I have been in DFW for years and years and years, far too many, and I simply love japery. I joke and only to entertain myself, detain myself for probably far too long, much longer than is healthy. So it's something that I do for fun and I do for people. So.
And where do you usually, I shouldn't say where do you usually perform. Where are you performing? Where can folks come out and see Taylor E. Gibbons on stage in the near future?
This Thursday at the Backdoor Comedy Club. It's just a shot up the freeway, 75 over there. It's at
know it well, and I love it. It's a great room. It's an intimate space for comedy, but I really enjoy it. I've seen Paul Varghese there. I've seen a lot of good friends up there. It's a great room.
Yeah, it is a great.
It's room. It's in the what hotel is it in?
Is it a DoubleTree?
It's a DoubleTree. It is in the DoubleTree Hotel, right on 75, north of Mockingbird.
Yes,
it's a good room though.
Exit Caruth Haven.
Caruth Haven, that's correct.
Yeah.
So what? So are you headlining on? You didn't mention.
Yeah.
What day is it? What?
Let's see. This Thursday over there. That's going to be tomorrow. And also April 1st at the Sunshine Bar in Arlington, Texas. I'll be performing with Clint Worth is headlining.
We love Paco.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get Paco to come in here. His Joe job has been preventing him from coming in and joining us. Paco's a good friend from the Pugs and Kelly days.
Did you say his Joe job?
Yeah, he's got a Joe job.
What is a Joe job?
A job other than being a stand-up comic.
Oh.
The job that you pay bills with, as opposed to...
Oh, okay. I've never heard of that term.
It's actually a term from Wayne's World.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Joe
Wayne
job.
at the beginning of the movie is
Love.
talking about. I've had my share of Joe jobs.
Yeah.
I have the hairnets and name tags to prove it.
Right.
So
Somebody
that's
walks among us, yeah.
so the Sunshine Bar in Arlington on April Fool's Day, and
Yep.
you're going to be at the Backdoor Comedy Club this Thursday evening. What time of shows do you know?
The show at Backdoor, I think, starts at like 8 or 9. I always get it mixed up because I show up real early to get on the sign-up list, and then it kind of just starts.
Kind of like comedy clubs all over the country. When the comics get there and the people get there, it just kind of starts.
Yeah. And then the other one, I don't know. I haven't even looked it up yet. Sorry, I look it up the day of. So,
Well, that's not important right now, and we will, in fact, post links on my Facebook and others to keep people abreast of when Taylor's going to be performing. We know about April Fool's Day at the Sunshine Bar in Arlington and the Backdoor Comedy Club tomorrow night. So Thursday night this week. If you are not doing anything on March 27th, go on out to...
and tons of great comedians there. I mean, if you want to show up for all of 3 to 4 minutes of me, please do. But there will be a lot of other comedians there. It's always a great show.
I love actually that it really is. It's of, by, and for comics. It's a real comics community there. So you get to see. I've seen some of my favorite comics over the last several years for the first time at Backdoor. So yeah, it is a great room, and I mean you've got the more established, larger spots that are even corporatized, like and we're not isn't a slam, but the Improv, because it's part of a whole chain of improvs. Mm-hmm. But I love the small local comedy club. I'm from Boston, and growing up in the '80s in Boston, I saw guys like Lenny Clark and Jimmy Tingle and Steve Sweeney, names that you wouldn't know here, but names you would, like Stephen Wright and Rosie O'Donnell and Paula Poundstone. Saw them all on stage when they were very, very young back in the 80s in Boston, in places like Play It Again Sam's, which was actually the basement of a house. It was great. Anthony Clark he's been on a number of series, on TV series. He's a fantastic stand-up, but that's to be able to survive that kind of trial by ordeal when you're just up there all alone.
Oh yeah.
In front of a room that could have multiple bachelorette parties in it. Mm-hmm. It could have the drunken heckler from hell who's also a black belt in karate. It could have, I mean, you just never know. And they might just be sitting there saying, you know what? I hate him for whatever
they
reason.
Just rip right into you. And usually a guy with a machete comes at you. Axl Rose stands in the background singing that song. And it's just surreal. I mean, it's like, it hurts your feelings.
Yeah, Axl shows up out of nowhere singing "Welcome to the Jungle."
Exactly.
But honestly, I've been an actor and I've done comedy before, and I've never done stand up. I used to write for a stand up comic named George McDonald back in the day, 100 bloody years ago. But having seen how hard it is, having seen real professionals, good, polished professional stand ups on an off night fall flat on their face and spend the rest of the night getting as drunk as they can get because one night the crowd sucked and they didn't adapt well to it. It is one of the most difficult things I've ever seen done, and I have great respect for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a real experience, humanity face to face, really something.
Absolutely, it's as bare bones as any kind of performance, and more interactive because you can say anything that might be the most innocuous joke in your set that makes someone say in their head, "Did that son of a bitch just say that? I'm going to kill him."
Well, I try not to.
And Rosa Nichols is with us once again. We want to make sure to, if you get a chance to see Taylor E. Gibbons tomorrow night at the Backdoor Comedy Club or on April 1st at the Sunshine Bar in Arlington, make sure to do that because I'm looking forward to seeing your set, my friend. And we've got some Jedi. We do have some stuff we can hear from Taylor on online.
Yeah, we got a few things from his SoundCloud. What's your SoundCloud again?
My SoundCloud, I think it's just my name, Taylor Gibbons.
All right. What is this Wags Wagon?
It's a sketch I did. It's a fake ad for a company that sells wagons.
Why don't we take a listen and see?
Yeah.
Let's see what the company that sells wagons sounds like. This is the comedy stylings of Taylor E. Gibbons. I always love saying comedy stylings. I'm sorry, it's so old fart, kind of announcery, but I love because they are the stylings of an individual comic, and I enjoy that. Yeah. So let's take a listen to Taylor Gibbons on SoundCloud.
It's Wagons West at Wags Wagons, where we'll waggle our fingers in disapproval as you pay full market price on a car for a wooden wagon with wooden wheels and wooden spokes. Pay for a team of inhumane jackasses and drive slowly into the sunset. Wags Wagons. We sell only wagons.
Taylor Gibbons and Wags Wagons.
So that one was kind of weird.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I should say I'm a very easy laugh. That's not your fault, but I do happen. But that was terrific. I like the way your mind works, man.
Thanks, dude.
Now, what would you say? Who would you say some of your influences were as a comic? What made you want to do stand up? And was it an individual? Was it something about something about your family, or was it just a very damaged upbringing?
Oh, okay. What made me want to do stand-up? Well, I always loved comedy growing up. Entertainment that was done by comedic minds, jokes. Always made me laugh. Always had a great time with that, and I always saw doing stand-up because I saw a lot of stand-up growing up as. I always saw that as the world of comedy. So it's like if you want to be a comedian, if you want to be like one of these people on Comedy Central, or one of these comedians you see on late night, what you do is you go to a club and you do comedy, and you tell people your jokes.
Yeah.
So I decided, well, I want to try to do that. So
how old were you when you started?
Actually, I only started about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm terrible with keeping count of things, but 2 to 3 years ago.
Now, being an old person myself, I have no idea I don't know how old you look. How old a guy are you?
I am 30.
You're 30.
30
okay.
years old.
Oh, I thought you said 13. I'm like, wow. I am 18.
So I was speaking through the front of my face because I had something coming up in my chest.
That's a great beard for 13.
Yes.
But so just a couple of years ago. Well, the great thing about it is also that it's not like there's an age limit on when you can start. Some people get there funny later on in life. Rodney Dangerfield was not a young guy when he started doing stand-up. He had been a salesman. He had done a lot of other, again, a lot of Joe jobs before he realized that which he was using, the humor he was using to sell products, was something he could actually apply to doing on stage. Yeah. And, you don't have to be young to do it.
Yeah, that was before he started saying, I get no respect, and actually he was a very unpopular salesman because he would go door to door just telling his customers, hey, people hate me.
No respect at all.
He got the idea to start saying that, then it started working out for him.
I gave my kid a BB gun for Christmas. He gave me a T-shirt with a bullseye on it. No respect at all. But
Dr. Vinny Boom Butts.
Dr. Vinny Boom Butts. Dr. Vinny Boom Butts, a very bad doctor, my doctor. Told him my teeth are getting yellow. He said, wear a brown tie. But anyway.
Came to his office. He said, stop doing that.
Anyway. I told him I had VD. He gave himself a shot. But anyway. So this has gone awry. Again, I can fall off the tracks as quickly as anybody in this business. So getting back to what we were talking about, Rosa Nichols is here as well as our friend Taylor Gibbons. Rosa is a writer, director, producer, and actress. And her most recent film, which is up, going to be at Damaged Joy at the Bare Bones Film Festival in Muskogee, Oklahoma. It is a, what is it? Did you say it's a featured title, or what's the how's
it's
it
a short.
It's a featured short.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And also, I know that we had talked about I'm getting ready to produce a TV series.
Now, I wanted to ask you about that because in the description that I saw of it, is it a faith-based or a family-based?
Yes, well, the TV series is going to be the first of its kind for a faith-based network.
Okay.
The majority of the faith-based networks, they buy their programming. This is going to be the first scripted TV series for that.
What's the network?
It is UA Network, and that's here in Dallas, and they show their programs here in Dallas, in Houston, and in New York.
So they're on cable systems here in Dallas and New York?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what does UA stand for?
You know, I never asked that. So I'm very new to the network. I just started talking with them. We're just now gearing up for the pre-production. We're doing the pilot and 2 episodes, and now I'm starting to do casting.
Yep.
And I just finally got my crew together. I needed a great group of guys, and I can't really say anything about what the show is about because I don't want to give anything away. But it is. It is faith-based, so.
Okay. So it'll have some type of faith message in the content of the context of the program.
Yes, and the story basically is coming from the Bible. So just one of the stories in there, and that we're just kind of bringing it up to date and kind of making it edgy and different.
Not a guy who lived in a fish or
No.
a 900-year-old man or
Although that would be great.
the shrubbery caught fire and it started talking. That would be. I'm just.
Yeah, that would be a little bit. Yeah.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. But so this is what's it called? What's the series called?
It is called Wrong Side of Heaven. And
Wrong Side of Heaven.
It is the wrong side of heaven. And of course, it'll still
Run
have
with
its
that.
parody.
Come on.
Of good versus evil. It'll of course have that in there. So, but that's about as much as I can talk about it.
Popcorn is there, Passion of the Christ or something?
Wrong Side of Heaven. Now, there was a Michael Landon series called Stairway to Heaven. Oh no. Highway to Heaven.
Highway to Heaven.
There was an Aerosmith song.
I was going to say, I heard Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah. Or Led Zeppelin.
Oh, Zeppelin.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Zeppelin was Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
And Aerosmith was Sweet Emotions. Anyway, so Wrong Side of Heaven is. Can you give us any idea of what? Without divulging too much, what can we can look forward to seeing it on the UA network.
Yes.
Do you know where one can find that here in Dallas?
I know if you have Verizon, it's channel 27. So
Okay.
I haven't been able. I have Time Warner, but I was told channel 27 on Verizon is where they air. They've got a sports program they just got, and that's also faith-based. And of course, the other programs too that they have on there. You can go to their website.
Is a faith-based sports program one in which all the athletes have to say Jesus helped them win, or
it would be good,
Every play's a Hail Mary.
Exactly.
is it just all Tim Tebow all the time, or I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Well, Rosa is staying very, very busy now. Rosa and I were on a network that was essentially a financial news network for those people who invest in what are commonly referred to as penny stocks. Now, penny stocks aren't stocks that cost a penny. In fact, penny stocks can be anything from a fraction of a penny to $5 per share. But what was great about it was we were doing some of the most creative and innovative reporting on the stock market, because the difference between something that's traded on the NASDAQ or on the S&P or on the Dow and the penny stocks is they had specific restrictions on what they could say and how they could say it about their companies.
Yes.
And the cheap stocks were the wild, wild west, where you could essentially, if someone would give you, put a microphone in front of your face, you could say anything you wanted.
Yeah.
So Rosa and I we caught several liars with their pants on fire back in the day. There was an aluminum company out of Canada. This guy his website was like all American flags, and it's a Canadian company, and he's got like this armor plating made out of aluminum dust. And the old joke is, the last thing you want to do is make armor out of aluminum, because not only does it not stop a round of munitions, but when it is struck by that round, it bursts into flames. Oh. So this guy was making shielding for tanks and stuff out of aluminum powder, and we called him to the mat on it, and he was threatening to send people to kill us. He was threatening to send the Homeland Security after us, because it was really something. But we were, this was one of many, many companies that we stomped back in the day. So Rosa and I met doing that, and she was just, obviously, if you had a choice between watching me tell you what was going on in the stock market and watching her tell you what was going on, well, make your call. Taylor, go ahead.
Her.
Thank you.
Your excitement is boiling over here, kids, so we're going to have to throttle it back just a little bit.
Yeah.
So then you had to go back all ad busters on them with your Tommy guns, prove them wrong, right? Exactly.
Let me tell you,
It was a little tense. Yeah, it was a little tense there.
It got tense with some of these guys when we called bullshit on what they were doing.
Look what happened to this aluminum.
Hey, yeah, I had the owner of the company, I had the founder of this company on the air, and I said, there's this whole big story about the Bradley fighting vehicle, the American Bradley fighting vehicle, because it had originally been a troop transport, the Bradley troop transport. But as all things government can go, everybody had stuck their fingers into it to turn it into a transport that had a tank turret on top of it and all this other stuff. And what was originally supposed to be essentially a truck with some plating on it to prevent guys from getting killed, getting to and from the line, was turned into a pseudo tank, Bradley truck to Bradley fighting vehicle. What they did with this thing was they put aluminum armor on it and aluminum plating on it, and one of the people who was doing the testing proved that with any kind of a shell, this thing is going to not only is it going to not prevent the round from going into the vehicle, when it hits it, it's going to release aluminum gas that will kill everybody in it.
Oh.
And he used sheep to prove it. So he filled it with sheep instead of people, shot the round at it, and killed all the sheep.
So if you shoot aluminum, it explodes and releases poison gas?
Aluminum is a carcinogen. People don't realize this. This is, going back to our parents and our parents' parents had, I remember from my kitchen when I was a kid, we had a skillet that was on the stove a lot of the time that was made of 100% aluminum. And it was, if you scraped aluminum out of it, aluminum leads to Alzheimer's disease, to brain cancer, there's all kinds of negative side effects to aluminum that we're unaware of. Well, see, dude, I didn't know this stuff until I started researching this company that makes aluminum, that waving the flag and saluting everything in sight, saying we're going to keep America safe, and it was ludicrous.
It was a trap.
A trap. I mean, they would have done a better job of protecting that a tank if they slathered mayonnaise on it than put this aluminum crap on it.
Like, what should we make the soda cans out of? Well, I don't know, kryptonite.
You know, they haven't made soda cans out of aluminum in a long time.
Oh, that's good.
For
I
that
didn't know
very
that
reason.
either. Okay, excellent.
Because aluminum.
People always say aluminum cans, like when they're talking about their recycling programs and stuff.
Yeah, it's a tiny fraction of them is aluminum now because pure aluminum is very dangerous.
Okay.
So, hey Jedi, why don't we do me a favor and let's see if we can take a break here. This is the Rich Hancock Show on DeepEllumOnAir.com. We're going to be back with Rosa Nichols, producer, actress, director, and screenwriter, and her film at the Bare Bones Film Festival in Muskogee, Oklahoma, which is the first 2 weeks of April, is called Damaged Joy. I'm going to see if I can get a road trip together and going up to Muskogee and see the film. My wife won't let me go anywhere with you. I mean, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how good you'll be. She doesn't trust me. But we're also joined by Taylor Gibbons, stand-up comic, and this is the Rich Hancock Show. Back with more after this on DeepEllumOnAir.com.
These flowers aren't for you. Who told you that they are? I hardly know your name. I'm sure we met at some bar. Why do we always say look the other way? I promise you today that I won't look away. Before you know I'm gone. When my heart stops, break out the bottle, stick the needle in my throat, stick the needle in my foot. When my heart stops, break out the bottle, toss it back, give me mouth to mouth, toss it back, give me mouth to mouth. Flowers aren't for you. Who told you that they are? I hardly know your name. I'm sure we met at some bar. When my heart stops, break out the bottle, stick the needle in my throat, stick the needle in my foot. When my heart stops, break out the bottle, toss it back, give me mouth to mouth, toss it back, give me mouth to mouth. When my heart stops, break out the bottle, stick the needle in my throat, stick the needle in my foot. When my heart stops, break out the bottle, toss it back, give me mouth to mouth, toss it back, give me mouth to mouth, to mouth, to mouth.
you want to hear. DeepEllumOnAir.com. Journalist, writer, actor, politician, and unapologetic progressive living deep in the heart of Texas.
You are listening to the sound of a completely new experience.
It's the Rich Hancock Show on Deep Ellum On Air.
Welcome back to the program. This is the Rich Hancock Show on DeepEllumOnAir.com. Joined once again in studio by stand-up comedian Taylor Gibbons.
Hello.
And actress, producer, director, and writer Rosa Nichols, my dear old friend. I shouldn't say, boy, my dear friend.
Well, yes.
She's,
Don't say old. Let's not go there.
That's unseemly. First of all, would you age a day, please?
I mean, try. I fight it every day, Rich. I'm committed to staying 25.
I was going to say, so the deal with the devil, does that include dental or no?
It includes dental and it includes,
because well, it's
Fountain of Youth. There you go.
Hey, what's going on with you, Twilight? What's your beauty secret?
We'll call her Bella from now on.
There
yes,
you go.
Bella Nichols. And it's just you. I'm not harping on this. It's just you're one of the prettiest people I know in real life, and that's just a verifiable fact. But Rosa is also the author, the writer, director, and producer of a film at the Bare Bones Film Festival in Muskogee, Oklahoma, called Damaged Joy. It is a dark comedy about the sad task of putting down a pet gone terribly wrong.
Yes.
That's
basically it. Basically, karma catches up to this girl.
In a world without veterinarians. No, so that's it. It sounds like an interesting film, and I'm looking forward to it. In fact, we have a trailer for that film. Do we not, Jedi? This is Rosa Nichols' film based on a true story. The film is called Damaged Joy, and here, for your viewing pleasure, for our friends on Justin TV, is the trailer.
And I'm not crazy.
Mom, I'm back! Where are you? No!
And I just thought I was doing the right thing.
That is great,
Yeah.
Rosa. That is
suspenseful, huh?
Taylor, am I wrong here? That is exactly what a trailer should be.
Yeah,
It leaves you going, oh, dude, I got to see what this is all
And
about.
it's like, what is that? And what's that man coming out of there for? And why is she screaming? All that.
And what's better than Damaged Joy with the phonetic spelling of Schadenfreude right underneath
Exactly.
it? That's great.
Y'all couldn't see this. Man, this was a trip. On this preview, they just tried to put this dog to sleep. It stayed up all night.
And the cat clock with the eyes going back and forth.
Back and forth.
I'm telling you,
Just teasing.
I am wholly impressed, Rosa.
Well, thank
In
you.
fact, I'm dying to see this film. The movie Damaged Joy, Schadenfreude, written, directed, and produced by my friend Rosa Nichols. And now she's got a TV show coming on the UA network here in Dallas called The Wrong Side of Heaven. Which is a faith-based show on a faith-based network.
Yes, faith-based network. Mm-hmm.
Now, are there restrictions in terms of what you want to do, by way of storytelling? Are there restrictions on what subject matter you might want to tackle, given that it is a faith-based network?
Yeah, there are. I mean, right now we are making sure that the language is appropriate because it is faith-based, but we are pushing the envelope as far as subject and violence and what can happen. Which I can't give away the full because I've been told, don't give anything away. Yeah. But it's basically, we wanted to make it so there's this disclaimer. We have to put that up, not suitable for children, or, have that disclaimer saying you need to really watch this and be mindful because it may not be appropriate for a young, even though it's going to be for the adults and pushing, because there will be violence in it. So.
Well, there are rating systems for TV as it is. We all know that. Yeah, I mean, if you sit down to watch American Horror Story, there are disclaimers at the beginning saying, this is what you're about to watch.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to be putting on ours, except not the, the cussing, the bad cussing or anything like that. So.
But I just, in terms of, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, it would be tough, I would imagine, to just say, okay, this is stuff I can't talk about because of the nature of the network we're on.
It is, and also since it's based on one of the stories in the Bible, it's going to be tough because you'll have the group that says, well, that's not how it was in the Bible, and then there's the other ones like, oh, wow, that's way out there, and we're just kind of trying to get that medium. So
well, that's what the big blockbuster about Noah's Ark is dealing with right now.
Right.
Is that there? I mean, it's part of the story from biblical lore about Noah and the Ark and what happened, and you've got people from the extreme, people on the left saying, why are we telling these fairy tales like it's a real story, like it's a factual, historical event? And you've got people from the other end of the spectrum saying it doesn't go nearly far enough. If the Bible says Noah was 900 years old, then Noah has to be 900 years old. Right. So it's like it's really.
Dude, Russell Crowe is ripped in that. Noah has been lifting, man.
Well, that was part of a joke we told on the show last week. Was if. How did Noah get to be 900 years old? And we're thinking Zumba. Zumba would have to be.
Yes.
Zumba would be involved and eating a lot of vegetables.
Work up that cardio.
A lot of vegetables.
Bring him 2 chickens and eat some raw eggs, man.
Now, it's while we've got you kids here, and since we've covered a lot of our business, there was a couple things I wanted to get into. Not the least of which being that now I am a Christian. I'm not I'm Catholic, but I think the Catholics at this point would pretty much consider me the loyal opposition. Yeah. Because, I'm someone who all my adult life I believe that priests should marry and women should be priests. And these are two simple things that you would think would make perfect sense in the modern world that are so violently opposed by some people within my faith. You're Catholic too, Rosie?
I am Catholic too.
So we're both Catholics.
Yeah.
That said, I don't, and what I know of you, I wouldn't really care if we disagreed on a point, but I wanted to ask another Christian. Now, Taylor, I wouldn't even want to ask you your religion unless you were willing to or felt comfortable with divulging it. But I say this as a Christian because I love that Fox TV has resurrected the television show Cosmos. Cosmos was a product of PBS many, many years ago. I believe it was actually in the 70s, hosted by legendary scientist Dr. Carl Sagan. It was amazing, and it was all about, the origins of the universe and the science that has determined these things. Well, it's been resurrected on Fox TV, starring Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, another, renowned scientist of his day, very much like Carl Sagan back in the 70s. Cosmos, a space-time odyssey, debuted on Fox. And the first show, a lot of people thought, well, this is, it's like science for dummies. It's, taking the history of the solar system and how the solar system formed and all this other stuff. And they said, well, geez, this is, actually it was, I tell a lie, it was Carl Sagan's PBS series was in 1980. But I thought it was the 70s. I forgot. So it happens when you get older, dude. Don't worry. You'll figure that out later. Okay. So I love the fact that they were bringing this back, but I thought it's really dumbed down science. It's like science for little kids on network TV in prime time. Well, no sooner do I think, and a lot of other people who believers in science and evolution, in climate change, and a lot of stuff that is scientifically based in its conclusions, criticize the show for it being too dumbed down. Then the political right went crazy over the fact that in episode 1, Neil deGrasse Tyson endorsed the theory of evolution, and it got so far in the controversy over this that a Southern, I can't remember where it was, but a Southern Fox News affiliate, they had a chance to preview the show. A Southern Fox News affiliate decided to take the point at which Cosmos' first episode dealt with evolution and cut to a promo for the local news so that people wouldn't hear the theory of evolution in the Cosmos on their local Fox station. Now, not to put too fine a point on it, but just to just gauge the temperature of the room. Taylor, do you believe in the theory of evolution?
Yeah, because, if it were Adam and Eve, then everyone would be inbred, and that would mean that, like, Adam and Eve would have had to be these incredible, like, giants, with 12 brains or something. It doesn't... The thought of such an individual is ludicrous.
Sure. Two people being the genetic base of an entire species, it's mathematically not feasible.
Yeah,
so that's it. I completely agree with you. Rosa, my fellow Catholic, do you believe in the theory of evolution?
I try not to think about that too much. It's just such a controversy. I just kind of stay away from, thinking about evolution versus, what happened with Adam and Eve. And I can see both. And I can say that I'm kind of leaning towards the evolution just because it's science. I can see it. It's something that I can understand, rather than like he was saying that, Adam and Eve had all these babies and they're just superhumans that have, all that other stuff. So,
as opposed to those within religious communities who regard the notion of evolution to be satanic. Charles Darwin, in the parlance of some of these more extreme religious groups, Charles Darwin is a manifestation of the devil. And that, for me...
Even though he was a Christian.
It was a Christian. And the fact that the Church of England, where Darwin lived, the Church of England has fully endorsed the notion of evolution. The papacy has fully endorsed the notion of evolution. How is it that there is so much, not just opposition to the theory of evolution, but rancorous, visceral hatred and angst associated with, how dare you question, this is what's going on with the movie Noah. How dare you question whether Noah was 900 years old? Well, because life expectancy has been growing since we've been keeping records of how long people have lived. Back in the old days, when a girl who got to be 14 and wasn't married was an old maid. Right. I mean, it's not... We're getting older because science is getting better, because medicine's getting better, all these things. But then we're supposed to believe that back in the biblical time of Noah, people lived to be 900 freaking years old. Stop it! The whole in some Christianity, in some Christian groups, there is what they call the young earth believers. Those who believe that based on biblical chronology, and this isn't exclusive to any one political group or another. A famous Democratic candidate for president, William Jennings Bryan, was a firm believer that the Earth is 7,000 years old, because that's the way it added up according to the way it was measured in the Bible. 7,000-year-old planet completely dismisses all of the science that has been accumulated over since in modern times.
Right.
How do you just say that's the work of the devil? Fossilized remains of animals that we can't identify. Oh, the devil put those things there to test us. Really? So Neil deGrasse Tyson, this, renowned scientist, starts up this show, brings back this show on Fox, and he is immediately attacked by the creationist community.
I haven't seen that. Has it already?
You haven't seen the show?
Yes.
Oh, it's great. It's on Sunday nights. It's great.
Oh, okay.
And you can, if you've got on demand on your TV system, you can go to Fox On Demand and watch it, as I did just the other day.
Okay. But
here's the story. Comes to us from the Huffington Post. Creationists, as groups, in fact, have made yet another complaint about Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos, a Space-Time Odyssey. Since the show debuted on Fox, creationists have not kept quiet about the science documentary series. They're saying some people have shunned the reboot of this PBS series hosted by Carl Sagan in 1980. Other creationists have now made a request, and that request is that Fox provide them with equal airtime to present creationist theory. Now, as a Christian, I don't have any difficulty. There's no conflict for me between theory of evolution, the science of the age of our planet, and my belief in my God. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, if your hero can be a man who's stuck to a board, I don't see why your father can't be a chimpanzee. Clearly that kind of thing flatters you,
Well put. That's why you have a comic around, for that, just that kind of thing. So anyway, this week, appearing on the Janet Mefford show, Danny Faulkner of Answers in Genesis, who's a creationist, Answers in Genesis, voiced his complaints about Cosmos and how the 13-episode series has described scientific theories such as evolution, but failed to shed light on the dissenting creationist viewpoints. He said on this program, quote, "I was struck in the first episode where Tyson talked about science and how, all ideas are discussed, everything is up for discussion, it's all on the table, and I thought to myself, no, consideration of special creation is definitely not open for discussion, it would seem. Special creation is the notion that God made everything, and since God made everything, you can't question how it was made. This started back in the times of the Scopes monkey trial with the notion of the human eye. How could the human eye and its miraculous function have not been created by a deity, by one true God? Well, sure enough, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Cosmos dealt very specifically with the evolution of the eye on this past Sunday's episode, and it makes perfect sense.
I love Tyson's comment about wanting to have a segment for creationists to kind of debate. Are you going to get into that about what he said? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I love when scientists debate creationists.
Did you watch the Bill Nye versus Ken Ham debate?
I relished the Bill Nye the Science Guy,
Yeah.
by the way, another great kids show, Bill Nye the Science Guy, debated this. What is his name? Ken Ham.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Ham is the guy who was in the Bill Maher documentary Religulous at the Creationist Museum. The Creationist Museum, with that most legendarily preposterous of visual effects, a dinosaur with a saddle on it. Aside from the fact that, let's just take the notion of man being on Earth with the dinosaurs to the logical conclusion that there would have been dinosaurs on Noah's Ark.
Oh, yeah. But
how well would every other species on that ark have fared if there was a T-Rex or a couple of T-Rexes on there?
Right.
They would have been nothing but appetizers. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, right, because they would have had to continue existing or never have existed or something if there were no evolution.
But in fact, the evolution of dinosaur species is very evident in birds.
Yeah.
With the backward pelvic bone and the hollow bones and the traveling in flocks and all these things that were very accurately portrayed in movies like Jurassic Park. This is the reality is that remnants of dinosaur species do remain, as there are remnants of a whole lot of other now extinct species that remain in one manifestation of evolution or another. I know how hard it is for... I've got dear friends on the political right who are just are willing to dismiss Darwinism and the theory of evolution and the origin of the species as, well, there are just too many holes in it. There are just too many holes in it. You don't have the missing link, and you don't have the direct from Neanderthal to Homo sapiens. So,
hey, what about the black and white moths in industrial England? Have you heard that anecdote?
I haven't heard that.
I have not.
There are these white moths right before the Industrial Revolution. Basically, it's blackened the skies of England during the first few years of that because of the billowing smokestacks. There were these white moths, right? And after a few years of this, what happened, or were they black moths? Black moths turn white moths turn black. Well, the point is, with all the smoke in the air, there was like one or two moths that were a different color. Oh yeah, and they blended into the black, right? The black moths. So they had that going on for them, right? They had that genetically, and they were the only ones that survived. Survival of the fittest. The black moths lived. All the moths in England turned black. Nearly all the white ones died. They evolved.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the difference between? And this is just a simple one. I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Massachusetts. Have you ever seen the difference between a squirrel in Boston or New York City and a squirrel in Texas? It's very shocking. And it's a physical difference, a visual difference, but it's also a genetic difference because they have adapted to live in the place that they're at. The ones up north are fatter. They have thicker skin and hair. They have thicker tails to keep them warm in colder climates. The southern ones, these are simple realities. The very realities that Charles Darwin pointed out from the Galapagos Islands, back when he was cataloging. You've got these type of birds on this island, and you got those type of birds on that island, and they probably started from the same place, but they developed differently to survive in the place they were living.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I believe in, though. I believe in the divine watchmaker theory that was created by Zeus. What I do is I take some olive oil out and I rub it on my chest and I make people watch. That's the old-time religion.
Oh, goodness. I was wondering, I'm like, okay, olive oil, and okay.
He just wanted to do that in front of you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Rosa.
Essentially, yes.
If we could get her to do it, it would be... Never mind. But that's But so this is what. By the way, Jedi. Yes, I would love to see, and I'm sure Neil deGrasse Tyson would relish the opportunity to debate.
Actually, he says he refuses to do anything like that.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't want to do any kind of debating, and he said that. Basically, what he said is, I wouldn't go on a show with NASA and want to bring on the flat Earth people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's people that still think the Earth is flat.
Absolutely.
And so he's not going to go on a show that shows the Earth is not flat, and then give people an opportunity to talk about how it's flat when it's apparently not.
It's part of the journalism of false equivalency, and I'm in full agreement with him on that. On that basis, I mean, Bill Nye went and had that debate with Ken Ham, and Bill Nye was respectful of him, and he tried to answer his questions, and he tried to address specific concerns about evolution. And by contrast, Bill Ham essentially said, because Jesus says so, and that's all there is to it. And that's not good enough.
Yeah.
For, if you're going to believe that God made us, as I do, I believe that God made me with the ability to develop a discerning mind and see things that are real and smell things that are real and, be able to separate the real from the fictional without it being the work of the devil.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Is that...
Yeah.
It's just... I understand why Neil deGrasse Tyson would take this position, but it's going to open them up to all kinds, all kinds of controversy, and that's going to be good for ratings. It's good for TV ratings.
Well, I mean, at some point, unless you're only talking, all of these people have to be aware of basically the same facts. Like, how am I going to get my car started? How am I going to send a radio signal? How am I going to start the energy generator working? How am I going to get a spaceship into space? And it's always the same thing. They look at it, and it's the same thing, and then they say different words, Yeah. So I kind of wonder what that's all about. I think it's really about what people are going to be doing, how they want it to be seen. People are kind of looking at each other on different eye levels, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, hell, hey, NASCAR creationist fan. Your, Dale Jr.'s car runs on fossil fuel. Where'd the fossils come from?
Yeah, fossil fuel bones. Really, they're like what fermented bones. I mean, no,
dinosaur squishings.
But it has to be dinosaur bones. This is I don't know. It's just a funny way of I was just saying language. Like, yeah, dinosaur bones. We mixed them up in a blender. Oh.
Well, it's actually fossil fuels are by and large, and this is something I'm actually involved in alternative energy stuff.
My simple mind.
Fossil fuels are predominantly made up of ancient algae. It's ancient algae that has fermented over time, and we can take. This is part of the renewable fuels industry. We can take algae as common as the algae that grows in your pool when you let the chlorine level get down, and turn it into fuel just as easily because it has the lipids of oil, the same as the fossil fuels do, without all the deleterious effects that it can have on the rest of the world around us, like carbon emissions, etc. So to talk about science as if, as Jedi said, to create a false equivalency between creationism, which is entirely, not kind of, not a little bit, but entirely about faith, and evolution, peer-reviewed, 150 years worth of peer-reviewed science as a false equivalency. I'm with Tyson on this. I think I wouldn't debate him either.
Yeah.
But it's going to make, what I truly love about it in terms of an end game for us as a society and television is it's going to create a lively debate. It's going to get people who were not interested in watching this show. The controversy is going to get maybe it'll get some creationist thinking. Maybe it'll get some evolution believers to see the world as other people, people of faith do. That You know, it is all that has happened is miraculous. And if you can believe that it all started for a reason, well, here's a radical notion that flies in the face of much of organized religion in human history. Maybe it's simply not all about us. Maybe there is a God, and we are part of a whole big thing, but we're not necessarily smack in the center of it. Maybe it doesn't have to be all about us. As the dominant species on this planet, we are at the top of the food chain, but does that make us necessarily better? Can you look back at certain cultures and the history of humankind that might not have been necessarily as admirable as the bear swatting salmon out of the river in the Pacific Northwest? Oh, I don't know. I can think of a couple. Pol Pot, the Nazis, Stalin, Kim Jong-il. I can think of a lot of, when part of the philosophy of our religion is elevating us to something that sits on the right hand of God, to me is faulty. Yeah. I wouldn't mind being in the same room with God, but I don't think I belong on his right hand. Given some of the stuff I've done, I'd be close enough to catch a clip, and I'd rather not deal with that. So, I'm saying that you can believe in, Rosa, you're a parent as well. I don't know if Taylor is, but as parents, many of us have the same experience in that I saw the existence of God in my daughter's face. I felt the existence of God the first time I heard my daughter laugh, that full body belly laugh that she still has to this day, that simply turns me into jelly.
Absolutely.
But that's, that is personal, and that is faith-based. To say, well, creation is all about God, so if you believe in God, you have to believe in creation. No, I don't. I can believe in science and still believe in God. Belief in science does not negate belief in God. And that's part of the fundamental flaw in a lot of religious opposition to scientific instruction, science in schools, etc., is that to believe in religion or to believe in science means you have disproved religion. I disagree. I don't know about you.
Well, I'm there too. I mean, we all have our own minds.
Yeah.
So.
and God gave them to us, and we use them for what we will. This is the Rich Hancock Show on DeepEllumOnAir.com. I'm going to take a quick break. We are joined once again by our friend.
You forgot our names?
No, I went off our page. I was looking at Craig Woolheater's thing. Thanks once again to Craig Woolheater, the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, for being with us early on the program. Taylor Gibbons, comedian, is here with us in studio, as well as my friend Rosa Nichols. Stick around. More to come on the Rich Hancock Show on DeepEllumOnAir.com. Stick around. The Rich Hancock Show on DeepEllumOnAir.com. We're joined once again on this Wednesday edition of the program by my good friend Rosa Nichols.
Hello, hello.
Filmmaker, writer, producer, director, and actress, as well as comedian Taylor Gibbons. And thanks once again to thanks to Craig Woolheater, the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, for being with us earlier on in the program. You know, we're talking about false equivalencies in news a little while ago. There are believers in a Bigfoot, something akin to a Bigfoot, almost everywhere in the world. Almost every country, and Craig was saying, every continent except Antarctica has some form of Bigfoot lore. Mm-hmm. Is it just old wives' tales? Is it just fish stories? Is it the Loch Ness Monster? Is that people have been looking in this very relatively small body of water? By the way, a loch in Scotland is a lake. This relatively small lake, they've been looking for the Loch Ness Monster using the most advanced scientific technology at their disposal. For what? 50 years? Longer?
How big is that lake? Is it as big as the Great Lakes?
No, it's not that big.
Can't we have the Great Monster or something?
It's huge, and like you were saying, with all this technology, you'd think they'd be able to find this huge thing.
Yeah. Well, apparently there are parts of it that are very deep. There are parts of it. It's difficult to map the terrain on the bottom of the lake so that something could actually exist beneath what they know to be. There could be at the base of the lake, there could be caverns. There could be it's often been suspected with the loch system in Scotland that these lakes at a very deep subterranean level were interconnected. The water was interconnected. Mm-hmm. That would mean that theoretically something that lived in there could get from one loch to another.
Yeah. Go to another lake.
Why's it got to be Big Feet anyway? Can't we just have a guy named Big Hans who has magic fingers and gives people back massages? I mean, isn't that just as fair to America?
That's your fantasy, and you own it, dude. Go ahead. I'm proud of your candor, and we'll have a parade for you later.
You'll feel it.
Well, why does it have to be a Bigfoot? I don't know. It could be. Why does it have to be?
What's a Bigfoot? They got those fake shoes. I mean, that's so funny.
Yeah,
that's what it is about it. That's why they formed a whole legend based on their ability to create animal tracks.
Yeah, on the size of its feet.
Yeah,
yeah. And they
might as well call him Big Visible and Fake Camera Shoot. It's like.
Well, speaking of big primate feet, did you see? I don't know if you saw this. Former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld of the George W. Bush administration ran into a little bit of trouble earlier this week when he suggested that, and this is something that you can easily run afoul of propriety when perhaps you decide to refer to the sitting president of the United States, who happens to be African American, in a country where African Americans were denigrated by suggesting that they were akin to primates long ago. Scope's monkey trial was all about primates that then the use of the N-word was prominent. So
are you saying that discussing evolution is racist against the president because of what it said? Is that what the guy said?
Nope.
No. Sorry.
Anyway, Donald Rumsfeld this week said that a trained ape could have done a better job securing diplomatic relations with Afghanistan than President Obama had done. Do you think there's anything wrong with a former defense secretary suggesting perhaps that the African-American president did not perform as well as a trained ape may have? Do you think that might have perhaps crossed a line? What do you think? From the standpoint of a comedian, Taylor Gibbons, what do you think?
I think clearly he crossed the line. I think he crossed the line intentionally. I think he felt like he was going to be immune enough to any backlash to actually do this inappropriate thing. And I think he was doing it as a political play to try and trip him up using an emotional attack.
Well, an aide to Donald Rumsfeld says that, no, it wasn't anything racist about the president. He's used that term before. The aide said, quote, he feels strongly about how poorly the administration has handled diplomacy, and that's what was reflected in his comments. This came from Keith Urban. No, not that one. Keith Urban, who is Donald Rumsfeld's former chief of staff. He said, from the botched reset with Russia, failing to secure a status of forces agreement to Iraq, to alienating Karzai to the point where he won't even talk to U.S. diplomats, to the latest diplomatic fiasco with Syria and Iran. It's been one epic fail after another. Well, if anybody knows anything about epic international failure, it is Donald Rumsfeld. Donald Rumsfeld, the defense secretary under George W. Bush when the Iraq War was started by George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld, with no evidence of Iraq having done anything that had to do with 9/11, but in its immediate wake. Donald Rumsfeld, who sent insufficient troops to do the job in the first place, sent them to a theater of combat without sufficient body armor. Kids were going off to war, begging their parents to buy them body armor and send it to them in Iraq because they didn't have enough. The United States military was undersupplied going into a theater of combat. IEDs, improvised explosive devices on roadsides that killed and maimed thousands of American kids because we knew of transports that were available that were designed to diffuse or deflect improvised explosive devices from doing any harm to the people in those vehicles, but that would have cost them a lot of money. So they decided not to send them. That was all Donald Rumsfeld.
He's truly the wilted flower of political tacticianing.
He is talking now about the epic failures of the Obama administration. And it is mind-boggling to me that he can, with a straight face, and by the way, he doesn't ever have a straight face, he has that smarmy smirk on his face that since the 1970s I've wanted to slap off him. But Donald Rumsfeld sincerely believes that he speaks from a position of moral authority. And that just, pardon me, because Rose is sitting here, that just chaps my ass all to be damned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you can claim on the one hand you're making these moves out of absolute necessity, like they said they were doing in Iraq. Well, like, we've got to find the terrorists, we've got to do it now, and then make these ultra-aggressive moves against your own countrymen that's going to undermine the actual present infrastructure. You know, it's like, what's really going on?
Exactly. Exactly. And this is very much, Rumsfeld is now taking a page from the current posture of former Vice President Dick Cheney, who was so entirely culpable in the failures of the Bush administration and is attempting to, well, I would suggest, is desperate to rewrite history about the worst, and I'm not talking about just in terms of like ideology or conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, anything like that. I'm talking about in terms of the ability to do anything it intended to do. The Bush administration, and this is according to polling that is all over the place and easily accessible, the vast majority of Americans believe that the Bush administration was the least effective presidency in history.
The worst president ever, wasn't he?
This is just on the basis of his ability to accomplish anything he set out to do. And I've actually seen the guy. I haven't met him, but I've seen him. And I mean, back when he was a candidate, I thought, Yeah, I get it. He's a nice enough guy. He's a jovial guy. I didn't think he was a bad person, but the tenor of his presidency, from the very beginning to the very end, was one of abject failure. Yeah. He didn't accomplish one single thing he tried to accomplish.
Yeah, well, the 9/11 attacks kind of set the tone, and I mean, that happened while he was the president. So, like, after that, people say, like, well, how are you supposed to deal with that? I mean,
it would have been easier for him to blame someone else.
How do you fix that? Yeah. You know, like, after the...
It would have been easier
to... got reelected, though. You know, like, how did people turn that around in their heads? You know, it's like, the two towers, they were so ugly. It's like someone was sticking their two middle fingers off. No, I love George Bush.
Well, John Kerry wasn't likable. George Bush was likable, and John Kerry... And I've known John Kerry since 1986. He helped us bury a dear friend of mine who died in a car accident in Boston. And when he then, a lieutenant governor, came and helped us bury my friend Michael Ventresca, I decided if he ever needed my help, I'd help him. I ran his, regionally in the state of Massachusetts, his Senate re-election campaign in 1990. I love John Kerry. John Kerry was a terrible presidential candidate. Terrible. So Bush won because we were in the middle of a war, and it's historically very difficult to change leaders in the middle of a war. It just doesn't happen. Historically in this country, it just doesn't happen. Roosevelt didn't stay president for 13 years for no reason. Mm-hmm. It was, depression straight into World War II, and, you just didn't change presidents. That just wasn't what was done. But that notwithstanding, George Bush, while not, I believe, not a bad person in many, many ways, was the most ineffective leader. He cut, while we were spending trillions on war, he was cutting taxes. Think about this in the context of world history, not American history, world history. Never in the annals of world history has any leader gone to war which requires enormous assets and resources, and then intentionally restricted the assets and resources he would have to use to conduct that war. Never happened. In mankind, never. The weapons of mass destruction, think whatever you want.
I suppose he was expecting to gouge the countries we were attacking, which is kind of like quitting your job to go spend the day at the horse track.
That's a great analogy, too. What did he tell Americans to do when in previous administration or in previous times of difficulty and strife, we were told to save rubber and wood and metal and scrap and stuff so that we would have all these things to work together to win the war? George W. Bush told us to go to Disney World. Go spend some money. Go to Disney World. Take a vacation with your family. Essentially, the message was, we're at war, but don't let it bother you. And that, to me, is a legacy that can't be sustained. And it's guys like Donald Rumsfeld, who is now in trouble again for saying, essentially calling Barack Obama a trained ape, when he says a trained ape couldn't have done a worse job of dealing with Afghanistan. Well, Big Donnie, you ought to know, pal. And here endeth the diatribe for this Wednesday.
That is a diatribe.
Thank you for that diatribe.
Yeah.
Well, that's that's the job. It's what I believe. I don't consider myself to be a zealous liberal, or in many ways I'm very, very conservative. I'm very conservative financially. I'm very conservative in my personal life. I'm very conservative in the way I conduct my affairs. But I tell one person that, whether or not a woman gets an abortion is to do with her and her priest and her God and not you. And all of a sudden they want to call me a baby killer. You know, how do you make that leap? How do you make that leap? So it's actually we're coming up on getting out of Dodge here, aren't we, Jedi? Thanks once again to all of our guests today. We were joined earlier in the program by Craig Woolheater, the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. Taylor Gibbons, who is a stand-up comic, and you can see him tomorrow night at the Backdoor Comedy Club Thursday night. And also on April the 1st at the Sunshine Bar in Arlington, Texas. Thank you to Rosa Nichols, and if you get a chance to get up to Muskogee, Oklahoma, you can see at the Bare Bones Film Festival Rosa's film Damaged Joy, and look at the trailer again, Damaged Joy on YouTube.
Yeah, and it'll be there April 12th is when they'll be screening the film.
April 12th in Muskogee, Oklahoma, at the Bare Bones Film Festival for Damaged Joy. For Jedi Jansen, I am Rich Hancock, reminding you, if the creek don't rise, the good Lord's willing, and Putin don't push that little red button. We'll do this all again in 2 weeks. We're in dry dock next week, right here on The Rich Hancock Show on DeepEllumOnAir.com. Have a great day, everybody. Courage!
It's the man who never holds back and tells it like it is. It's The Rich Hancock Show.